Hi, I'm Maggie from Koba.Siani. Welcome back to the Maggie project. Here comes part 2 of the sewing videos. Have fun! At first we have to add some marks on the zipper. I'm marking the zipper beginning on both sides of the zipper, means on both tapes, and from there on I'm measuring downwards the zipper length. This needed zipper length you will find in the written sewing instruction in a small chart there. As you can see it here, I'm doing the marks on the right side of the zipper, but please do it on the wrong zipper side, that's much more practical for later. Then I can pin the zipper to the side seam. The right side of the zipper is facing to the right side of the fabric here. The zipper tape edge is aligning with the fabric edge, and the zipper beginning means the mark there is at the upper waistband edge, means here with 2 waistband pieces. This is the seam in between these 2 waistband pieces. The marking for the zipper end on the zipper is aligning with the hip notch on the fabric. With 1 waistband pattern piece means for a smaller waistband, the zipper beginning is right at the center of the waistband width. This center I've marked before, just like this, by folding the waistband in half. Then I can sew on the zipper. All the following zipper seams I'm starting at the top at the upper waistband edge. Then I'm sewing downwards down to the hip notch, aka the zipper end mark. As you can see it here, I'm using my special zipper sewing foot for invisible zippers, but you can also use the normal zipper sewing foot. Don't forget to cut off your thread ends after the sewing steps. And then we're continuing with the second zipper side. If you are closing the zipper for a short while, you won't confuse the zipper side. The rest is exactly like before. The edges aligning, the notches are aligning and everything. During the pinning process, you can open the zipper again. Again, I start with the seam at the top, at the upper waistband edge, and sewing downwards to the hip notch. Then comes the lining. The zipper beginning I'm folding sidewards so that it won't get in my way, and then I'm folding the lining like this over the zipper. The folding line at the top is again the upper waistband edge, and the lining side seam edge is now aligning with the main fabric and the zipper tape edge, plus also the hip notches are aligning with the zipper end notch. The right sides of both fabrics are facing, I mean main fabric and lining, and the zipper is in between them. The exact same thing I'm doing at the other side. I fold the zipper tape at the beginning away, and I'm putting the lining right fabric side to right fabric side on the main fabric. The edge is aligning and the zipper is between those 2 layers. I then sew the lining to the zipper, this time with the regular zipper sewing foot. Again, I'm sewing from the top skirt edge down to the hip notch. And I'm sewing along the zipper, but not too close. The important thing is to stop the seam exactly at the hip notch. This applies to all the seams at the zipper. Then comes the second side. And then the whole zipper is almost done. Afterwards, I'm turning around the zipper area the corners here to the right fabric side so that I can control if everything's alright with the upper waistband edge. Sometimes one side of the zipper gets a little bit longer than the other, and now it's still time to correct this. Then we will close the side seam below the zipper. I'm pinning the edges of the side seams together, separately the layers of the main fabric and the lining. For this seam, I'm using again the regular sewing foot. This lower section of the side seam is closed from the hemline upwards to the hip notch. When I've reached the zipper end area, I'm pulling the zipper to the side so that I can get as close as possible to the seam end of the previous zipper seams. So this was the lower side seam of the main fabric. Now follows the lining part. Of course, both seams are done as always with 1 cm seam allowance. At the hip, again, I'm pulling the zipper tape to the side, and I also have to take care that there are no pleats in the lower one of the 2 layers, and I try to get as near as possible to the seam end of the previous zipper seams. Afterwards, the side seam allowances are pressed apart in the lining layer and the main fabric layer. I then cut the zipper just a few centimeters below the zipper end. With a small fabric rectangle, which is 6 by 4 centimeters big, I'm building a kind of pocket to encase the cut zipper end. Of course, there are also other possibilities to make a nice finish of the cut and raw zipper ends. I just like this very much. If you have made no lining in your Maggie skirt, you could also consider adding pipings along the zipper tape edges. These pipings also include the seam allowance. But this also depends on your taste and if you can stand these zipper tapes on your skin or not. Okay, so as you can see, as soon as the case is folded over to the right fabric side, I can just put it on the zipper end and stitch it. Now that the zipper is ready, I can attach the waistband. At first, I'm pinning it in place. Then I stitch it all around. As I don't like to have any visible stitchings here, in my case, I'm sewing exactly in the seam line of the previous waistband linking seam. Like this, you cannot see this seam later. But of course, you can add any visible or decorative stitching here. Just make sure that the beginning and end of your seam is not too near to the zipper, because otherwise you will have problems opening and closing the zipper. There are several options how to finish your hem. The best thing is, especially for the long Maggie version, to try on the skirt now. Please do this fitting with the right shoes already. And keep in mind how much seam allowance you will need for your chosen hem option, but more to this in a few seconds. You can also let the skirt hang out over one night so that the fabric can stretch out before hemming your skirt. This makes especially sense for softer and finer fabrics. Then, in general, if you haven't used separate lining pattern pieces, please shorten your lining hem by 2 cm. This is 3/4 inch. For a long Maggie with lining and train, it's also safer to do the main fabric hem first, then transfer the length onto the lining, and then continue with the lining hem. Please make sure that at the sides of the train, see the red arrows here, the lining has even more length difference to the main fabric than the 2 cm. Otherwise, the lining peeks out easily later when wearing the skirt. But now to the hem options. Here comes option number 1. For this option, you fold, iron and pin both lining and main fabric twice for 1 cm to the wrong fabric sides, and then you stitch this in place. Means for this option you need 2 cm seam allowance or hem allowance, but this is not possible for the Maggie with the train because there the hem rounding is too strong, so that you can't fold the hem for twice 1 cm. Option 2 is even simpler. There you need only 1 cm hem allowance. There the hem edge is casted and then folded and stitched for 1 cm to the wrong fabric side. If you like to have more stability in your hem, you can also work with a synthetic horsehair ribbon like I've did it here. Option 3 is a very narrow hem, which looks very elegant, very subtle, and allows the fabric to flow nicely at the hemline. At first I folded and ironed the hemline 1 cm to the wrong fabric side, and then I'm stitching this very tightly along this folded edge. I then cut the fabric tight along the stitching line. Afterwards, again, I fold the hem for a few millimeters only towards the wrong fabric side and top stitch this. With this method, you can easily make a narrow hem. At the end, for all hem options, please iron your Maggie in order to get a clean finish. Okay, that's it, you've made it. You've sewn your Maggie. I hope you enjoyed the pattern and the sewing process. If you have any questions, let me know below in the comments or write me to info@Koba.Siani.com. I'm glad to help you. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you won't miss any sewing videos or freebies from my side. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook mainly. There I will post some cute visuals for the Maggie skirt and also, of course, other sewing projects and ideas. I hope to see you very soon again to one of my next sewing videos. Take care until then. Bye!